Welcome to MojoPlays, and apparently the Game Boy Advance isn't popular enough for the main channel. So here we are. I know you guys will love it. These are the 20 best Game Boy Advance games. Before we continue, we publish content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified of our latest videos. Sonic Advance 3. If there was a game more deserving of being ported to handheld, it was Sonic, and even with the slightly downgraded system, he didn't lose any of his trademark speed or style. This platformer beautifully recaptures the quick pace and clever level design of the original Mega Drive games, with a level of precision absent in its sequels. With multiple characters to play as, the size of the game turned out to be surprisingly large considering the size of the cartridge. Kirby and the Amazing Mirror. Kirby's first GBA adventure was an enhanced remake of his original NES game, but his second outing was far more ambitious. In fact, it might be one of the best Kirby games you can get your hands on, and as a big Kirby fan, please take my word for it. Exploring the mirror world feels like navigating a massive maze, and Kirby often needs to summon 3 other Kirbys to solve puzzles and progress in his journey. And I know what you're thinking, damn, 3 other Kirbys? They should have made the game multiplayer. Well, you stupid f***ing idiot. Sorry, they did, and it's dope. Get some link cables and play it right this second. F-Zero Maximum Velocity. Though Nintendo consoles eventually saw several polygon-based races, the games that stuck closer to the SNES's Mode 7 style tended to shine the most. Maximum Velocity is a prime example, impressing players at launch with its smooth racing mechanics and sharp track designs. Set years after the original game, it doesn't feature familiar faces like Captain Falcon. And guess how many people just learnt that Captain Falcon is from F-Zero? Drill Dozer. In the 2000s, Game Freak was mainly focused on Pokemon games, but it managed to create this standout platformer along the way, which is surprising considering just how much Pokemon was taking their time. With a vibrant manga-inspired style, Drill Dozer shines thanks to its sharp localization, challenging and unique bosses, and creative mechanics centered on the powerful drill that protagonist Jill wields. The GBA showed off its rarely used rumble feature, which many players at the time weren't even aware existed, so they would have got the shock of their lives. WarioWare Inc. Mega Micro Games. Few games reach the absurd levels of humor found in this wild collection of quirky minigames. The game is delightfully simple. You're given a single word instruction and just a few seconds to complete an outrageous task, like balancing tiles on a unicycle or helping a girl sniff a boogie back into her nose. With over 200 ridiculous games across 9 themed levels, including a stage dedicated to classic Nintendo franchises, the whole experience is as fun as a handheld title can get.
Hey, oh yeah.
Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. There may not be a GBA title that I sink more hours into than Final Fantasy Tactics Advance. During the Game Boy Advance's early years, Square Enix was still cautious about fully committing to Nintendo's handheld. Testing the waters, the studio released this fresh take on the beloved PlayStation classic, now with a new storyline. This GBA title delivered engaging strategy, memorable characters, and a challenging gameplay experience, all that could be done from the backseat of your parents' car on a long road trip. I played this on a long road trip. Mario vs. Donkey Kong.
Here we go!
The enhanced power of the Game Boy Advance not only upgraded the visuals of this game from the original black and white Donkey Kong Game Boy games, but allowed the team to introduce a variety of new puzzle mechanics. It's an ideal pick up and play game for the GBA, perfect for quick puzzle solving sessions on the go. A remake of Mario vs Donkey Kong is currently available on the Nintendo Switch as well, so go see the fun for yourself. Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town. You might think that tilling fields, milking cows, and other farm chores would make for a dull game experience. Oh wait, no you didn't, because Stardew Valley rules. Addictive barely captures how captivating this game style is, and many games that exist in this field owe everything to Harvest Moon. The goal of the game is to live a full life on the farm, and you'll find hours slipping by as you work towards it. I don't need to tell you all how intriguing this concept was in 2003, when taking such a full and addictive experience on the go wasn't so common. Fire Emblem. Nintendo gave fans an exciting glimpse of the Fire Emblem series by including Marth as a hidden character in Super Smash Bros. Melee, though at the time most American gamers had no idea what they were missing. Fire Emblem for the Game Boy Advance marked the series' debut in the US, introducing players to a distinctive RPG-focused strategy experience. While it shares some gameplay mechanics with the more familiar Advance Wars, the addition of characters who can die permanently added a strategic depth that left players feeling more invested and more involved. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. In 2001, Nintendo hinted that its upcoming Game Boy Advance would deliver SNES power, a huge step up from previous Nintendo handhelds, which were closer to the NES in capabilities. We eagerly anticipated layered side-scrolling games and racing titles that would use the system to their advantage. Then Vicarious Visions blew everyone away with a stunning adaptation of the PS1 Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Despite system constraints requiring a fixed overhead perspective, Vicarious Visions managed to capture the game's skateboarding action remarkably well. If you're looking at it and thinking how the hell could a GBA skating game work, just play it and eat some humble pie. Super Mario Advance 2, Super Mario World.
Just what I needed.
I don't need to over-explain this to you guys. Super Mario Advance 2 is just a GBA port of Super Mario World on the SNES, which is such a good idea for the handheld console that I'm pissed off I didn't think of it. Super Mario World is undoubtedly one of the standout titles in the Super Mario platforming series, as it introduced innovative mechanics such as branching paths, multiple exits, multiple endings, and most importantly, Yoshi. The title lost nothing with its port and is celebrated even years later, and right now. Yay, Mario. Golden Sun. I love this game. Golden Sun showcased stunning visuals, a dynamic soundtrack, and a rich story, and while it relied on the traditional random turn-based battles mechanic for half of its gameplay, it still provided a satisfying console-style experience on a really compact system. Its sequel, Golden Sun: The Lost Age, made some adjustments and allowed data transfers from the original game, but it was the first installment that left the most significant mark on the Game Boy Advance players. You can play it right now on Switch, and I promise you that it's worth your time. Final Fantasy VI Advance. Among all the remakes of the Final Fantasy series on the Game Boy Advance, none shine brighter than the exceptional conversion of Final Fantasy III from the Super NES. Although the numbering has been adjusted to align with the Japanese releases, this title is actually a remake of Final Fantasy VI. With stunning graphics and even more impressive soundtrack and the classic Final Fantasy gameplay that fans love, it's widely regarded as the best 2D game in the series, and even possibly the best entry outright, with many die-hard fans believing it's better than the 7th entry. Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. The Super NES featured Super Mario RPG, while the Nintendo 64 and GameCube showcased Paper Mario. So what does the Game Boy Advance have? Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga. In this unique action RPG, both Mario and Luigi team up, drawing heavily from the Paper Mario design. The gameplay is distinctive as players must coordinate both plumbers, particularly when using the GBA buttons for classic Super Mario mechanics like jumping. It's another one of those entries that is shockingly full, taking full advantage of the system. Castlevania Aria of Shadow. Konami, always at the forefront of innovation, was an early supporter of the Game Boy Advance, launching the handheld with Castlevania Circle of the Moon as one of its inaugural titles. The GBA series kicked off with a strong start, and by the time the third installment, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, arrived, it made a spectacular impact. Over the GBA's lifespan, 3 titles were released, each offering thrilling action-adventure gameplay and introducing something new with every entry. However, Aria of Sorrow stands as one of the most memorable and the most immersive. Metroid Fusion. By the time Metroid Fusion was in development, the franchise had already found its place on the GameCube as the premier first-person adventure. However, for fans eager to return to the series' roots, Metroid Fusion fills that gap. The GBA is underappreciated for giving games that had grown beyond their roots a return to form, with Metroid Fusion and Sonic being just 2 examples of loads. The game pays homage to the classic gameplay mechanics of Metroid, Super Metroid, and Metroid 2, while also advancing the story and giving Samus a sleek new design. It was loved by fans and new players alike. Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. We couldn't have a top Nintendo game list without including Pokemon, and Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire were exceptionally brilliant, marking a turn in the series from then on out. The Game Boy Advance titles offer a wealth of strategic depth that was missing from the original entries. Additionally, everything you accomplish in this game can be transferred to the console versions of Pokemon battle games. Although it may not be a visual or audio masterpiece, it certainly excels where it matters most: gameplay. Mario Kart Super Circuit. Now, although it's become somewhat of a cliche for Mario Kart hardcore fans to reference the underappreciated GBA entry as one of the best Mario Karts ever made, there is definitely a huge dose of truth in that, even if it does come from a pretentious place. Mario Kart Super Circuit was essentially the flagship game for the Game Boy Advance. Although it was released several months after the system's launch, Nintendo showcased it prominently at the hardware's debut. The designers even took advantage of the GBA's single cartridge multiplayer feature, allowing 4 players to race on classic NES courses without needing separate copies of the game. Advance Wars. In Japan, Nintendo fans had a series of their own called Famicom Wars, a turn-based strategy game that unfortunately never made it to North America. This is quite a shame because its US debut Advance Wars on the Game Boy Advance was an incredibly deep and satisfying title that uniquely challenged console players. Advance Wars faced unfortunate timing during its release, launching around the time of the September 11 attacks, causing heavy strain on the publisher's ability to promote their game tastefully. Even with one of the most substantial sales barriers imaginable, the game became a lot of players' favorite GBA entry. The Legend of Zelda, the Minish Cap. Every Nintendo system deserves a Legend of Zelda game. It's practically a rule. It took several years for a development team to craft an original adventure for the Game Boy Advance, but the result was an incredibly fun and charming game that, as we previously mentioned, brought the series back to its roots. The introduction of the ability to shrink and grow added exciting new dimensions to the gameplay, allowing Link and players to explore areas that would typically be overlooked at his feet. When you're the size of a bug, there's a vast world to discover, and this alone should have let us know the Zelda games would continue to grow and thrive, adding new gimmicks and mechanics with every new entry. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from MojoPlays and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified of our latest videos.